Thank you so incredibly much for joining us again on another episode of Starseed Activations. Welcome, welcome. My kids were just outside and look, they came inside and they gifted me this beautiful yellow flower. Like, it's just so cute. And they were like, Happy spring. Because we know that when the yellow flowers come, it's spring. So now I did pull an affirmation card. And so the card is Today I Will Forgive. So today I will forgive any past mistakes I have made and love myself unconditionally. And this is what it looks like. So it's just beautiful and it's pretty and it's actually right in tune with the spring colors, with the theme of spring. So yes, now I actually do have a whole list of people who sent in their comments. I finally got around to scrolling through the website messages, and so I wrote down a bunch of comments and questions from there. So we're just gonna dive right in. So emotional replacement, we actually had a download come through this week about emotional replacement. So people wanted me to break it down for them. So actually, let me just see. Maybe I have the actual post. I'm not sure. Let me just check. Okay. No. Let me see. Let's see. Let me do this. Go back. Emotional replacement. Okay, so each emotion may be expressed in a multitude of ways. When the primary individual walks a path of darkness, a traumatic emotional replacement response may start to develop. So basically, what that is just imagine for 1 second, we've walked, and many of us have walked through the empath and the narcissism cycle. And so we may have gone through that particular type of darkness. Now, after you end that relationship, we usually go through a process of self-healing, and then we may, if we so choose to, re-manifest a new relationship in the future. Now, when you go through the new relationship, that's usually when you're going to start to really notice these patterns come forward. And so what they look like is, let's say you get uncomfortable or fearful or something funky happens, or you don't understand, your body doesn't, and your words, your thought grid, they're saying, it doesn't know how to recognize the emotion because you may have been putting up a protection. Many times this includes putting a heart shade up. That heart shade shuts down your emotions. That's done to protect you. And so when we take a look at emotional replacement, that basically means that when you're supposed to be feeling sad and you're like, oh, it's okay, everything is fine, because you're trying to stay happy and positive, but your body inside is screaming sadness. And so that is a way of bottling up the emotions, but it causes major distortions. And so we're not yet fully, human beings are not yet fully aware of how much damage to the manifestation process that's happening because we're utilizing different emotions. Now, I personally caught myself doing this because my days used to be horrible. I was a cripple. I was in so much pain. So I would walk around and I knew, according to the law of manifesting, we didn't want to use the words, oh, it's a horrible day, because that word, that frequency is going to shift into the hologram and it's going to make more horrible days. And so I would walk around and I would say, it's fabulous. So what is that doing? We are assigning a positive word to replace the negative emotions that we're feeling. So we don't want to do that either, because after a couple of years of doing that, the word fabulous, which is supposed to be bright and positive and cheery, is now replaced with a negative emotion. So now anytime you go to use that word, your emotion is what is magnetizing the future to you. So it's the emotion that we're firing off. So even if we're using a misplaced word, the emotion that's firing off is still negative or lower. So when you do get into the new relationship, now, here's the thing. Anytime you're scared, you may say, I love you. Anytime you have any type of anything funky going on, fear, being, what else? There's a whole range of emotions that go on. Embarrassed, talking about things that make you extremely uncomfortable, right? So you may start to spit the word, I love you. And so what it is it's kind of like, you're using it for a whole bunch of different emotions. And so we want to try and become aware when we do this, and we want to try and rein it back in. So we want to try and change our patterns of behavior, because the truth of the matter is, if you're feeling scared, you should be able to say to the people around you, I feel scared. And so those people around you are supposed to go, okay, you feel scared. So let's dive in. Let's walk through it. How does it make you feel? You're scared. Okay. Why do you feel scared? Or is there any harm or physical danger right now in this very moment? Are you dying? Are you sick? Do you feel sick? How do you feel? Right? What's actually going on? Or are you fearful of the future? And so when you're fearful of the future, well, the future isn't here yet. So that means that changes can be made, right? So even if you had a nasty diagnosis or something like that going on, okay, but the future isn't here yet. You're not really experiencing that. So right now, in this very moment, you're being given an opportunity to make changes. And so that thing could either be really bad or it could be less because you changed your frequency, which allowed it to heal in a multitude of ways. Now, the high technology we know for a fact is coming to this planet. There's no avoiding it. We already have artificial intelligence is already out. Chat GPT or something, whatever word. I think it's GPT. And so, but that's already out. So now, I mean, the power of foreseeing is just there because it's like, well, if you're having that and you enter some keywords, that can write a college paper for you. So what do we need colleges for? Anyone who really wants information, you could start playing with the artificial intelligence and get information that way, right? I'm sure the artificial intelligence, as of right now, it may not be skewed to give us misinformation. We'll see how it goes. Nobody really knows yet how it's going to manifest. So, but right now, you could put in all the information and keywords and you can come and you can get information and knowledge from that thing. So, it's going to be replacing the school systems. Just think about it, right? It's an option for manifestation. We all know that certain systems on the planet needs to be changed. So, we're seeing new systems come in and the old is going to break up and fall apart. This is part of the evolutionary process because each and every one of us watching this, even me, we went through something very similar where it was like, okay, we learned all this darkness and then we're like, well, how are we going to overcome it? What do we do? Right? We can grab the pitchforks and head to the street and all of our neighbors think we're crazy, or we can learn, educate ourselves more, and now all of a sudden the spirituality comes the second that you release resistance to everything that you've learned. So we can see that the old washed away and it allowed new information to come in. Now the new information is power because whoever has the information holds all the power. Think about it this way: the people putting out the technology, they have all the information because they hold all the patents. So they see what technologies are really readily available for the planet. Now, if they see what real technology, and I'm talking high technology, free energy devices, all this stuff, and they're holding it back so that they could push gas, coal, and oil on us, right? So who has all the power? The people with the free energy, right? So if we stop doing patents and we start actually sharing the information to ourselves, right? So people are putting it all over TikTok. It's being broadcast out. So people are becoming aware of these different technological systems. So the second that the awareness hits, it's kind of like a domino falling. And so one falls and then that person tells another person we're all connected by three people. And so before long, everyone is going to be discussing these sort of topics and figuring out how the people of the planet can take their power back. And so it all starts with conversations just like this one. Because the second that you realize that's only one thing on the planet that we could be talking about. The truth of the matter is that we have electricity inside of our bodies. We have magnetism inside of our bodies. We are naturally connected to this earth. And it not only that, but the second that we really start deep diving and connecting into the earth and we start really exploring what it's like to be connected. So there's so many different meditations out there, breath works out there. It's very easy to get confused doing all of that stuff. Now, the most important thing that the star people have personally shown me was how to pull myself out of the matrix. And so what that means is that means dropping into your actual consciousness, even if it's only for a split second, right? Even if it's only for this 5 minutes that we are sitting here on the video, just close your eyes, take a deep breath. Can you feel the space outside of your body? Can you just sense what do you guys feel? Even if you're walking, just take 1 minute and just close your eyes and take a deep breath in. What do you feel outside your body? Now, when you start doing the energetic work, I personally have had experiences in the spiritual shop where I walked through a room and I was tiptoeing with socks, right? So nobody heard me. I was like, happy go lucky shuffling. And so, but every person in the meditation, after they were done, they came up and they were like, who walked through the room? I had to go to the potty. It was in the back of the room. And so, but they all said that they felt my energy as I was walking through the room. That's the potential. That's only the early stages of our potential, is expanding on our energetic grids and shining that it all comes from the heart. It has to be done in love when you do this. Now, back a couple years ago, I was doing a lot of meditations, manifestations, that my energy grid would become far and wide so that it would heal all the people who came into contact with me. And so you guys should do it too. And you can't do it once. You have to do it over and over and over again, because the more you place your focus on. Now, focus was another couple questions that we had come in. So we're going to really dive deep into the focus of our consciousness, because it's of the utmost importance. Now, we've been telling you guys for a while, this is a holographic simulation. And so when you close your eyes, you can sense the space on the outside. These are where we're going to start to see extra dimensional beings, right? Because there's different dimensions on the outside. Interdimensional beings is going on the inside, like the astral realities. There's multiple astral layers. There's not just one. So there's multiple, and each one of the chakras connects into a different astral realm. So we could get into that whole topic too. But when we start to realize, okay, we have the inner, we have the extra, which is on the outside of us, it's all connected, it's all one. So we start to see, okay, well, what else can my consciousness perceive? Now, each and every one of you guys, your subconscious mind knows, it understands, and it knows your body better than you do, because your subconscious mind has been healing the body the entire time. You're just not consciously directing it. And so when we start to close our eyes and we go inside the body, think about your kidneys. Can you feel them? Where are they? I could feel mine. My subconscious mind goes, okay, here they are. Somewhere along the line, most of us, I want to say 99% of us, saw a pair of kidneys somewhere on a TV, in a book, in school. We just know naturally. But the subconscious mind, if you told the child and the child had no idea where the kidneys were, and you told the child, and then, okay, close your eyes and focus on your kidneys, the child would tell you, oh, my back over here, right? So the subconscious mind knows where your organs are. So when you start to go in, you can feel and sense, and just ask the body to give you the information that you need. That's all you do. You close your eyes and just feel. Now, when we start to go inside and we start to feel these different things, right, it becomes really interesting, because a lot of times we dive deep into meditation and we could push ourselves out of the simulation. That's what it feels like. That's not actually technically what we're doing, the star people are saying, but we can pull ourselves back. So when we do this, it's kind of like your energy pulls back and you feel deep inside the body. But that's when you can shoot yourself straight up and you can start to access higher frequency, higher density realms, they're saying, like 4D, 5D is up there. So by having the ability to do this, it also gives you access into time and space. We have a slipstream, which is a different type of particle inside the heart. Now, we also know that there's neurons in the heart, so there's memory in the heart, but there's also access in through time and space. And it goes up and down, so you can pull yourself up, but you can also access time and space. So when we hear about the monks who are doing things like levitating, the gravity, levity, along with time and space, they work hand in hand together. So both of these things you'd have to access the heart for. Now, when you start to drop into meditations, even if it's only a walking meditation. So this is the thing. So many star seeds, we come with ADD. And so that means that we have a hard time focusing. You said, you've been battling a kidney infection? So right there, and I don't know why I said kidneys. That was the first thing that they said. So drop in, and I want you to start sending love and light to the kidneys. Ask your higher self, thank your higher self for raising the biological frequency of my kidneys and allowing it to start healing. Right. And so but the more focus that you place on doing this, and likewise, you should set an alarm. If you have a watch or the cell phone, every single hour I would drop into, you can just do it for 1 minute and just see, because what you're actually doing is you're sending it love and light. And so we do this to the plants. What happens when you start talking to the plant? The plant grows 10 times its size. So if you're having any sort of body issues, start talking to your body. Kidneys, I love and bless you, kidneys. It doesn't matter if you think it's crazy. Just do it anyway. Trust me, it'll work. And so, but the more and more you start to place focus on that area, it's going to add this frequency, because the frequency is coming from inside of you. And so what we're doing is we are changing our internal circumstances, the star people are saying. So when you change your internal circumstances, that frequency that's coming down from the higher self radiating out, you're making a change in here, which then in turn it'll start to change the perception of the physical body along with your location coding. To make changes to the universal coding, it's a little bit more like you have to get to that level. You don't just make changes to the universal ring. So it's kind of like it has to be a significant change. Or you have to place focus on it, the star people are also saying. Some people can go place focus on it, but then the focus has to be there for a while, and then you'll start to notice. The astrologers have actually made changes into the solar system, but it happened on a mass. It happened with multiple people. So they're saying the power of three kicked in when they did this because everyone was searching for something that they believed was up in the solar system. And then one day somebody found it. It was manifest. So we know that the power of human consciousness, it has an effect on random number generators, and it also has an effect on every single thing in the physical reality that we see along with our body. And yes, that's 100% correct. It can be connected. Any issues in the kidneys and the urinary tract is all connected into the sacral chakra. So what I would do actually is orange, right? You should put it in your bed. So get an orange blanket, sleep with that. I know it sounds silly, but I also had an imbalance in mine and I got all orange bed sheets. And then I slept with them for about 7.5 months. And then all of a sudden the star people, because the star people guide me, and they were like, now it's time to shift the color to blue. So now we went from focusing the sacral to now focusing the blue chakra, your throat chakra. But that was just me. So there's a bunch of different things that you can also do. So orange foods like oranges, you want to start eating them. Follow your intuition as well, because anytime if you put an orange in your mouth and your body's telling you it's the most delicious thing that you're eating, it means your body is calling for it. So whatever the body is craving, we always want to have a look at why. Why is my body craving this? And why is it that it's pulsing me to eat more of it? So, okay, so a kidney thing too. Yes. So definitely orange chakra as well as orange crystals. So, well, I moved all my crystals on the other side of the room and we got to be too much over here. But definitely there's some really good orange crystals. I have one that makes you get up off your butt if you're lazy. And so think about it too, because any fears, your fears, it's also to do with social circles can cause distortions in the sacral chakra. So if you've ever had issues with like mom and dad yelling at you, that usually ends up there. Intimate relationships ends up there. So we always want to have a look at what happened in your past, what attachments that you're holding, because many times the attachments trigger you too, which is it's weird. You started giving my face skin a ton of love and gratitude when I wash it, and I ended up with adult acne. Oh, that stinks. Yeah, there's a whole Merkaba shift that happens from childhood to adulthood. And so, and it doesn't matter the age because we've always heard, oh, that guy never grew up, right? And so he never shifted from the childlike mind. But that's all in the personality grid complex. Now, I actually just had personality grid complex posts that I reposted up there from a while back, but the topic came up again. So we do have a 64-bit cube inside of the heart chakra, and that is your personality grid complex. 32 of those cubes are for positive and 32 are for negative, and then they're all attached to different experientials. So for an example, whenever we're around certain people, like let's say you have your home friends, right? So you could drop your guard, you be your real self. You're accessing different cubes in the personality grid complex when you're around certain people. But then you have your business self. So you're going to business. So then all of a sudden, your soul would activate a different portion of your personality grid complex when you're around different people. Actors do this naturally. And so when they're putting on a personality, they're actually channeling a piece of the source frequency down, and it fills in the heart chakra, that personality grid. And so it's a form of channeling. That's what it is. So this is how each and every one of us, when we are open-hearted, we're actually able to call forth different beings and then channel them. And what they're doing is they're tuning into the personality grid complex. If you guys have ever felt Like, let's say your grandmother passed away and you've ever smelt her, that's the same thing. She's channeling through the personality grid. It's her energy, is what it is. It's not her actual full light body, because when we pass on, the soul shrinks. I know this. I have a post called The Soul Cry. You guys should read that one too. So when we're getting ready to discharge from this world, they use discharge because it's an energetic discharge. Your aura field, which is normally 6 feet tall, it starts to shrink in, shrink in, shrink in, and then it goes up the Kundalini channels and it goes back to the higher self. So a tiny fractalized percentage stays in the body. This is why the hair and the nails continue to grow. And so that's okay too. That's also how it doesn't matter. Next topic. So when that goes back up to the higher self, now all of a sudden, let's say that person is no longer there, but there's a tiny bit of light ions in the body after they pass. So when you dehydrate the body, you can get the genetic material from their biological form. Now you could reconstitute them. Because the soul form left a tiny fragment of light in the physical body, your bones, that is physical matter. That physical matter is still made of light. It's still connected into your higher self. So when you start to extract the DNA, now all of a sudden you have reincarnation through high technology, because they can grow a body that matches your DNA in a lab somewhere. And then all of a sudden, soul technology is readily available out in the solar system as well. So they can call down your higher self, because each body is only a tiny, tiny piece of the higher self. You're not actually taking the full higher self. Even if the higher self takes the seat in the heart, that's where the higher self flowers that chakra open. So when you are reincarnating someone, it's like pulling a string. This is what the string workers do as well. So I had a post come out about string workers, and string workers are people who see the strings behind all the connection in the simulation. So they're actually able to dive in, and they're able to, if you want to manifest something, they pull the string through that manifestation, and it's kind of like energetically latching it onto your grid. And it's amazing that people can do this. Now, when we drop into meditations, let's say I astral projected, just an example. Anyone can do this, not just me. You astral project, and then you watch a string worker do this. And now that I'm telling you guys, maybe you might come across one and maybe you might have them do it. But if someone astral projects and watches them in the ether, you can see them pulling the string to the experiential. It's magnetic and electric in their nature, and they just tie the string on, and then all of a sudden it drops into your lap, and you didn't even have to lift a finger. That's possible too. Now, also we have the dream workers. So the dream walking ability is what it's actually called. The star people are correcting me. And so those people do the same thing as the string workers, but slightly different. So they can go into your dreams. There's also people who can go into your dreams and consciously guide. And my starman does this for me all the time. So I know I have heard him yelling stop in my dreams, which woke me up. And it was whatever it was that I was going to manifest in the dream. It was not positive. So he put a stop to it. This has happened several times. I've heard it. So, and then of course I wake up and I'm like, what the hell was that? So I gotta know, but these things are real. So we are going to start to also notice a dream walker ability and people becoming dream guides. Now, don't confuse dream guides with regular shamans. It's a type of shaman because they're getting you to go to sleep and they're staying awake, and then they go into a meditation. A lot of times the star people are saying they use smoke because the smoke cleanses and purifies the dreamers, not the dreamers, the dream shaman's body, while they are making direct two-way communication in the dream time. And so in the dream time, when we have a dream, that dream is either we consider it to be a message, but the truth is that we can go in and we can program the dream so that when we wake up, we see it in the physical reality. More and more and more, I'm starting to notice this happen to me as well. And so I'll have a dream and then I'll be in the waking world. I'm like, how is this here? Like I was just dreaming this morning, and all of a sudden it's here in my world. Like it's something that you can't even, like, it's not a regular item that I would ever interact with. And all of a sudden it's in my day and I was just dreaming about it. So there's definitely more to the dream space than we have been told. Now, what other civilizations do, and this is what the star people tell me, is they have 3 dream workers. what they call them, or dream walkers, but they're working for the entire planetary system. And so all three of them go into the meditation every single night, and then they start to program the holographic simulation for the entire planet. Now, of course, we have to realize the way that matter shifts, because my reality could potentially be different than yours. So you would have to agree to have three dream workers go in and do these types of peaceful global, peace for everyone manifestations in the dream world. You know what I mean? So like you would have to have an agreement with these people. Okay, you're going to watch the planet. Thank you. And so they do their job, but you're consciously aware that they're doing it. And then that's a wrap. So that's how other planets do it. It really is quite genius, because that's the first thing I would set up. Right? You set it up, and then all of a sudden, that those people are handling it. You only need three people. So let's say, even if you had 30 people do it and everybody rotated, but those three people, they did it consciously in a building every single night. So it was guaranteed that people were taking control of it. Right? And then all of a sudden, world peace manifests because you have people meditating for it. Now, even with the catastrophes on the environment, all of these earth changes and shifts that are coming up. So it is okay to do group meditations. Now, we just had a water meditation for, the water to be, apparently I missed that one because that day, I don't know what happened. I just wasn't available. We had doctor's appointments for the kids. And so I totally missed it. We were supposed to do it. I should have done it, because now all of a sudden, the kid's father works, where did he go? He drives a truck, a water truck, no less. But he was next to like the Delaware River or something, and he said he saw a huge fire. So a huge fire, some building, and it looked like the smoke was all the way up in the atmosphere. And it was not even a day later, and they're saying that Philadelphia had to be shut down, the water, so everyone is getting bottled water. So all of these things are happening. So when we start to bring it back and we start to really go in to do group meditations, right, and we just send it love and light, and we just have to be at peace with the situation, and so it diffuses any energy that we are holding, right? And so when we are okay with what is and we just send it love and light, we're still doing our part, because it's just like the plant that grows 10 feet. When you speak to it, you tell it you love it, it grows 10 feet. You have to realize Mother Earth is a conscious sentient being. So we have the ability to go in and talk to her and say, I love you. Thank you for taking on this dense karmic, because that's exactly what it is. Anytime Mother Earth has pollution or toxins or anything going on or bad weather, she is bubbling the karmic energy up and out to be released. And so all that toxicity can be cleaned very, very rapidly with the high technology. So just so all of us are aware and we're not in fear of forever plastics or any of that stuff, all of that can be cleaned with high technology. So, and then not only that, but send it love and light, and maybe the technology will be manifest even sooner. Even the process of visualization. So when we go inside of ourselves and we see it, and we see it as being clean, we see it as being healthy, we see humanity coming together. And so that's this 1.4 million people in Philly. That's an hour south of where I live. So when we start to see things like that, we drop into the meditation, we send it love and light, and then we see what positive changes we can see made. Maybe the entire water system will get a huge upgrade, and then all of a sudden people have really clean, non-fluorinated water. We don't know what could be manifest. And not only that, we have divinity inside of us. So each and every one of us are cosmic creators. We could create new universes. We can instantaneously manifest items. I've seen it. I know it's real. We can make lightning. There's so many different gifts. There's 365 human senses. And so I'm telling you, from levitation to time space abilities, where you're able to instantaneously teleport, all of these things, telekinesis, teleportation, bending the wind, that's one. You can manipulate water. Some people can levitate water. That's another one. If certain people don't want to be seen, let's say that they don't want to be on camera, the camera won't be able to recognize their energetic signature. That's one too. And not only that, I can't talk about it on live, but I've done manifestations and it was like, bam, it worked. So someone didn't see my car on the camera. It was wonderful. So certain things we can do, you guys can do. Now, even when you're at a traffic light, try bending time and space. You can either try making, you probably shouldn't do this one, but try making the yellow light longer, right? Or you can try making the green light longer. Either one. Try making the red light speed up so it goes quicker, right? We can do this. You can fly. You definitely can fly. See, a lot of the times, the way the consciousness evolves is we get the technology first. We're supposed to already have this technology. It's here, it's on the planet. So we can take a look at different civilizations on the earth, and you could just tell those people had high technology. You could tell. And so there were certain fairs, like a carnival fair. And so those buildings were put up in like 6 to 8 months, and they looked big, like huge, like Roman times. And then they were bombed. So they demolished the entire city and they wiped it down. So they don't want us to see our true potentials. But if we could build an entire city like that in 6 months, what kind of technology did they have in the 1800s? Now we're starting to see things form, pictures and all sorts of material come about saying that in the 1800s they had, electric cars. They had all sorts of different devices. So they were basically to our level of consciousness almost. I don't know if they had supercomputers, but they definitely had electric cars. So when we start to, and levitation is done with magnets. And when we go into the meditation state and we want to levitate the body, we have to change our magnetism. So just imagine two magnets together, right? Two magnets together. It I hope you guys are still there. I had a phone call breakthrough. Sorry, guys. Damn, it was on Do Not Disturb, too. Okay, I hope you guys can. No, Instagram is down. We'll just give you guys a minute. Okay, well, let's see the next question. My friend just broke through. I can't believe she did that. It's crazy. Okay, programming access codes. So we can program glasses to see auras or any other variables. Now, this is true. Just imagine for 1 second, it is Instagram. If you guys can hear me, just give me a thumbs up because you stopped blinking. Okay. So we can make different manifestations on glasses. And so now I wouldn't do this on your regular glasses that you have to wear all the time. I would try and do it on things that like sunglasses or like different glasses that you don't use all the time. Now, you can program it to show you into the astral realms. It may take you months. I'm not going to lie. You may have to sit there and focus on these glasses over and over and over again to get the manifestation. Even if you had to do it 1,000 times, that's fine. You only have to get it right once to have an amazing pair of glasses that does this for you. That's it. It's a holographic simulation. So if we have the ability to do this, that means that we can program it to see auras. We could program them to see attachments. We could program them to see into the future. Now, we actually had different cell phones and different cameras in the cell phone. And this is going way back to like the early flip phones. But there was a couple flip phones where you would put the camera on and go into a certain setting, and it used to show you through the wall. So it used to show you the outside. So different technology already picks up through time and space. It just depends on the technology. Your body, your glasses, your manifestation abilities. I mean, we are all a fractal of the source frequency. So if this entire reality, this holographic simulation is made up of the source frequency, that basically means that we can control it the second that we become consciously aware. However, that control comes with the responsibility. It also comes with you have to go inside and you have to do the shadow work. So you have to love yourself. You have to heal yourself. You have to remove any density, any darkness. If you're manifesting any diseases or body distortions, anything funky going on, that always should be dealt with first, right? And so, but you have to make yourself happy. You change your emotion code. When I changed my emotion, I went from severely in pain, and then all of a sudden, in 2.5 weeks, all my pain was gone. I had to go inside. I had to be happy. I had to laugh a lot. And naturally, your body starts craving salad. You start craving lighter foods because you don't want to eat the greasy burger and get weighed down, right? So, but there are different moments in life where, because I just ate salad for a solid year and I was good with it. And then the star people were like, you need to eat some meat. And the second I ate meat, it was during this last 2 weeks. And they were like, now that grounded you into the physical reality. Now you can start healing all the stuff that needs to be healed. Right. So sometimes the utilization of meat products can be beneficial, energetically speaking, because it grounds you. Not only that, I've done manifestations that when I need a crystal finds me. And so I had bought so many crystals at one point, and then I've given them all away. And then I vowed, I was like, I'm never going to buy another crystal again. When I need a crystal, it'll come to me. And then all of a sudden, the right crystal came to me, and it was a grounding crystal that starts healing all the stuff. It's amazing. So, but the synchronicities will always kick in. When you need something, it will be dropped right at your feet. And the earth works the same exact way, because when we need a plant, the plant will be given to you, right? Mother Earth will figure out a way so that someone hands it to you. Now, when we start the process of learning, because everything is a learning process, when we start to learn how to manifest things, we can start. It was 2 weeks ago, right? A tiny bit of meat. It was the star people had to push me to eat the meat because I had a moral dilemma going on inside my head. I had this chicken once. Her name was Henna. She showed up, and I loved her for less than a week. She was my backyard chicken. Every time I would come out with a piece of corn, she would hobble and run over to me. And so one of the neighbors gave it to the neighbor in the backyard who had a chicken coop. It was not his chicken. And then he made her soup. He turned her into soup, and I was heartbroken. So when I quit eating meat, it was like a year ago, and then my kids were like, "Oh, you're Miss Henna," right? Like they say it. And so it is what it is. But yeah, sometimes your body calls for it. You really don't have a choice either. So the way that the star people described this to me, there was once upon a time, there was a guy on the TV show Survivor, and he was a straight up hardcore vegan vegetarian. And so he went and he was like, bam. And I guess from being on the island so long, he won one of the prizes, and they were like, well, you're a vegetarian. Do you want the salad or do you want the chicken? And his body was like, I need the chicken. So his body called for something more dense in that moment because it was needed. So thank you, thank you. I heard the murder of my chicken, and I felt the energy release. Like it was crazy. I mean, that was a wild experience though, because when you go through something like that, it was like I knew. I just knew. And like the next day he was like, "Do you want some soup?" Like he had no problem doing it because he doesn't raise pets. This was like a pet for us. But it wasn't our chicken, it just showed up, and it wasn't his. So, yeah, it's amazing. But to feel that bond, so we energetically bond with animals, and it happens very rapidly to some of us. So with me, the second I saw that she was following me around and she loved me and she stayed by my side all day long, that was a wrap. I was in love. So many of us, especially the animal people who like fall in love that quick with animals, right? The second you bond, it makes an energetic imprint into your aura field. And so just imagine for 1 second, a man and a wife together for 50 years, they become energetically entwined or bonded. This is what me and my starman have done. So we become energetically bonded. It's a form of symbiosis. So two organisms bond together to make one. We do this naturally with each other. We do it naturally with the animals. It's nothing special. We automatically do this. So when two people have been together for 50 years, they finish each other's sentences. They become very close in their frequencies because they're resonating on the same frequency wave. So they're together all the time. They laugh at the same thing, finishing sentences, all of that stuff. So when one of them goes, now just imagine you were bonded with someone and now you don't have access to that energy. And so when you don't have access to that energy, you fall into sadness because you're missing that energy. This happens with our animals. How many times have we had an animal pass away suddenly and it's like, oh, it feels like you got stabbed in your heart, right? And it lasts a long time because it's your pet, it's your animal. There's also an energetic like withdrawal that we go through. And it's like, oh, you have to rebalance your energetic grid structure and allow yourself to go through. It's like the healing process. And it doesn't matter if it's with people or animals. Unfortunately, a lot of times with the animals, it hurts more, right? And so I don't know. I had 2 cats. I cried my eyes out. It's so funny. Stop. Star people are laughing. Okay. Next question. Does anyone have any questions? Let me see. Okay, Mel Ann. Let me see. Medical awakening. I don't know who that is. What is the purpose of life? Are we to go through bad to appreciate good, and by experiencing bad, becoming more in tune with karmic laws? That's, yeah. The whole purpose of life is, well, this is kind of like a game, to be honest with you. And I know I would never say that to people, especially people in pain and we're going through it in the real world. This is so physically draining and we don't feel good or something's going on or we're emotional, we go through heartbreaks. That's real life. It's real. It could be ugly, it could be messy, it could be disgusting, right? But it is real life. And yet, when we are in spirit form, it's kind of like, oh, you spend eternity in spirit form because it's an eternity, it's forever. You cannot kill light. And so, but then it gets boring. What do you do when you have everything? How are you going to learn? How are you going to grow? How are you going to evolve in spirit form? So, what you're going to do is you're going to drop into the 3D reality so you can live in these physical bodies, even though you've never actually left heaven. This is only a tiny little piece of you. And your higher self, it fractalizes into multiple people. And you could be on any planet. You could be a crystal. You could be a crystal in one form. You could be a human in another form. And then all of a sudden, you're having all these different lifetimes, but the whole purpose is to go through the ranks because there is a process of evolution. And when we go through the ranks, we're actually able to take all of the knowledge that we have learned from all of the different lifetimes. So it's basically like a race to see who's going to get there first. Is it going to be me in this body, or is my higher self going to have someone else in another body and they beat me? It doesn't matter either way because we're all the same thing. We're all the same higher self is all of us. The only difference is that this physical form gives us distortions. That distortion changes the perception or the way that we see the physical world. Now, when, let's say, for an example, we have technology that we can pull the light body out of the physical body. So what happens then? If you have a conversation with the light body, you're basically talking to the higher self. You're talking to your higher self, which is your soul form, right? And so when you have a conversation with that higher self knows everything. It knows the past, the present, the future. It knows what you need. It knows more than you do. And so this one is tricky because a lot of times we are asked to put our faith, and you can call it God, you can call it whatever you want, the higher self, it's all the same thing because the higher self is directly connected into the source frequency. We are asked to put our faith in something higher, a higher presence other than ourselves. That's very true. And so for a while, when I was going through my dark days and I was going through the earlier stages of my healing, I was cursing her out constantly, right? Why do we have to go through this? And why this and why that? But then you look back at the journey and you're like, oh, wow, right? I was so guided and supported. And she was right because she knew exactly what I needed to get to the next level. So even though it may have stunk in the moment, you go through these things in order to learn and grow and evolve, because if your foundation isn't set correctly, the whole house is going to topple down. So we have to go through these things. We have to learn about ourselves. We have to go inside ourselves. We have to change our diets. I have changed my diet so many times in this past year, I cannot even tell you. From eating calzones because it was cheese and bread, to eating chocolate, to dropping the coffee, no more caffeine, no soda, no this, no that, right? And trying different things, monatomic gold, right? The borax came back in. And so, but this is what we're supposed to do. Try a bunch of stuff and see how it makes you feel, right? Each and every one of you guys has very particular body chemistry that is innate to yourself. Only you are going to know how it makes you feel. You have to be the one to try a bunch of different things. And not only that, but it breaks us out of our comfort zone. So, our comfort zone, and when we activate fight or flight systems, it may make us go into hermit mode. So this is very important to recognize because not too many people are I don't listen to anyone. I would imagine not too many people are talking about this. But when you see someone who's always in their house, who doesn't like to leave their house, that means their fight or flight system is all the way on. That's because that location ring which is normally active, is above your head, it's normally shrunk because we're going to different locations, so it becomes active. But the second that we get our energy grid shrinks a little because we get sick, that location ring, it comes inward. And so that's why when you're sick, you can't leave your bed. So it's your mobility. How far is your radius, right? That's your location ring. So when you start to notice that someone doesn't leave their house, even if they don't leave their room, we want to always ask, how's their location ring? Because that location ring will show you how a person is not only mentally, but physically, emotionally, all of these different things. You haven't been leaving the house. So what the star people did with me is it was kind of like a baby bird in a nest. They were like, you got to go out. And I was like, no. Right. And I would just go to the mailbox. Like, I got a tiny bit of sunshine. They were like, no, you got to go out. So they had me start walking in the park. And believe me, I was so uncomfortable when I first did it. You have to break out of that comfort zone. You have to try new things. You have to go out, even if you have to force yourself to do it, because you don't want to get sucked into that fight or flight system of not leaving the house. There's a lot of nitpicking that happens when you don't leave the house. That's attachments too. Now, the nitpicking is like, if you're staring at the same exact environment every day and you see someone else come along and make a mess, it's going to like make you angry because it's your environment. This is what you're looking at all day long. It's a psychological thing. It happens to a lot of people. So just be aware. Sometimes leave the mess, go out into nature, smell some flowers, you come back in, and all of a sudden you're handling the situation totally different. Your emotions can change by putting yourself in different environments. So that's a solid 1000% fact. Now, if you go and you sit, and I just posted a picture up on Facebook about me climbing a mountain. I made my two kids come. I was like, the star people, right? Go climb a mountain. You need more exercise. You got to leave the house more. And so that's it. We put our hiking boots on, and it took us an hour to go up a mountain and down. So my kids are so funny. I was taking one of the panoramic pictures. I think that's how you say it. And they came running down the little hill right as I'm doing the panoramic photo. And so both of their bodies look like it got like chopped in half. And so I posted the photo and I was like, look, my kids are they're teleporting through the dimensions. And so it's so funny. They were just running in the picture. But yeah, I got you guys good. Yeah, 1000% true. Shift the energy I'm getting out today. You've kicked my butt and motivated. Do it. Just do it. And I know it stinks. It's going to take more than one day. So they had to kick my butt a whole bunch of days. And I did not want to do it. But you know what? I did it. And then I did it a little bit more and a little bit more. It was really cool. So many people were like, is that real? Yeah, I'm like, I wish it was. But they do other things that's amazing. Like all morning it was raining and then poof, the sun's out. So the one time they made it snow, right? So the children could do these things much easier than us. Now, the really important thing is learning how to harness and cultivate the emotions, because for every single emotion we see the emotions, a lot of times we see them as crummy. Like, why are we so emotional? Because we have a full range of emotions, full, right? And so but each emotion is a manifestation. That's it. So certain emotions, like we can bliss out all day long. We could tap into 5D, but you can tune into anger, and we can manifest things with anger. Now, let me tell you something. When I was doing my website, I got angry. And I got angry because someone told me, "Oh, you're never going to do it." Right? I was and so I was like, "Oh yeah." Right? It wasn't like a real anger because I'm not like an angry person, but a part of me was like, "Oh yeah." Right? I had it done in less than 24 hours. Done. Now I just tweak it. I make little changes. I do, all sorts of things, but it was done in 24 hours. So sometimes we can utilize the darker, it's not really darker, but the negative range emotions, and we can shift them into positive. So we never have to allow the negative emotions to be negative for us. We could take them and we could turn it into something beautiful. So never, I don't want you guys to ever feel like a negative emotion is something that you have to get down about. You could take that energy and twist it right into a positive, right? If your body is going to be triggered into that emotional range, we might as well make the most of it. So it's all about your focus. right? You got the emotion is fired up. Now, let me take a sip. There's a TV show called The Magicians. I believe it's like the first episode. The lead character, his name is Quentin, right? So he gets accepted into the magician's school. And so he does card tricks. And so as he's sitting there, the dean is like, show me magic. And so he tries doing a card trick. He epically fails, drops the cards all over the floor. He's so nervous. So the dean gets up and he yells at him and he curses at him. And so what happens next? Quentin's emotions fire up. So he got all emotional and it was lower frequency because it was in fear. And then all of a sudden, all the cards that he had dropped on the floor, it turned into a house of cards and it started moving and stuff. Right? So they knew, whoever wrote that show, they knew metaphysics. They knew this information that I've been telling you guys. A lot of this information is encoded into the movies and the TV. And the second that you become aware of the information and you go back and you watch the movies and the TV, you're like, oh, they totally knew it because it's written into every single one. So that's disclosure. They let us know about the information without directly telling us, because if they directly told us, half of us, especially, the churchgoers would, freak out. So they had to do it in such a way where they could rise the consciousness. So by putting Star Trek, right? Everyone watched Star Trek way back when. I know all the adults in my world watched it. And so, but it opened their mind to the concepts that were displayed in the TV show. So now all of a sudden, it's like bringing your awareness, your focus onto these different topics. This is why we have to be very careful with what TV shows that we watch. So at a certain point, we all watch the zombie virus movies, right? I've seen almost every episode. It's now I can't watch it because now I go back. I tried watching it once and I was like, oh, I had to turn it right off. So it was just too graphic and too much. So when we go through the process of evolving, we may not look like we're evolving because we look like we feel like, or maybe not feel, but we look like the same person that we were years ago, right? Like we're in the physical world. I'm right along here with you guys, right? But now all of a sudden, what changed? My inner world has completely shifted. You can't do horror anymore either. See, that's the same exact thing. The Saw movie, can't do it, right? Too violent. At one point, I was like, let's watch it every day. So can't do it because we have evolved to such a degree, even if it's only a tiny bit. We're more sensitive to these things. That means that this type of lower frequency information is no longer in resonance with who we are meant to become, with where we are going. It's not in alignment with us. And so this is how your intuition works as well, because you'll start craving different knowledge. You'll start craving different food. You'll start craving higher consciousness conversations, right? You'll start your whole, and like, it'll be a whole journey. And the people who aren't resonating with you, they will not want anything to do with it when you start diving down this path, not in the earlier stages. That's okay too. It's okay to take a step back and be like, wait, well, I need to dive into this and I need to do that and focus on yourself. That's okay too. I'm telling you, I know, I've done it. Doesn't mean you don't love anyone. You still pick up the phone once in a while, you call them, but I mean, you also want to watch because sometimes your people, your friends, could get stuck in the same cycles over and over and over again. And so now we start to notice the cycles that other people are going through that we have overcome. That's a part of the evolutionary process too. And so what they say is it's like the law of polarity. And so we see things from our perspective. So I went through that cycle once upon a time, and then all of a sudden I quit that cycle, and now I'm seeing other people play out those cycles, right? So we have to see it from different angles, angular. There's always three different angles that we perceive every single experience from. And then it allows us to send it love and light to heal the experience as a whole. And then it opens up one of the energetic nodes on our energetic grid structures. There's 144 specific nodes that need to be opened. And then we can rise into 5D. That's how that works. So they say 144 is actually a frequency. When you start to unlock all of your experientials with the triangle, right? So seeing it from three different perspectives, a neutrality, right? So you have your perception. This is what the star people are saying. Your perception, you're seeing other people do it, and then you're neutral, right? It's okay for them to have the experience. I'm not going to judge it, because judging something, no matter what it is, it starts a cycle that casts back upon you. So when we start crime shows, you know what was funny was I was just talking to my starman about this the other day. When I was in high school, I would watch what was it? It was that stupid TV channel my mother was always watching. It always had these drama shows, and like you would watch some horrific nonsense happening on these shows, people getting all sorts of distortions going on. And so I used to always watch it, and then I would sit down and I would write about the shows in like poetry form. And so I didn't realize it back then, but by experiencing it firsthand, because even watching it on TV, you're triggering the same emotions, right? And so by triggering those emotions, it actually gives you access into all the attachments that those emotion range would cover. And so now you can sense all of the emotions, you can sense the attachments by their emotions. So, what when we watch crime shows, it's the same exact thing, right? You're seeing the crime, you're watching it, your consciousness is digesting all of that. It's very real and tragic, and so, but it's giving you access to a certain frequency range that now you're consciously aware of, right? So you can't go back and erase it. It's in your memory grid. You can, technically you can. So now the star people want me to dive into the memory grid complex, because your memory grid complex works like this. When you tell yourself something over and over and over again, it will become real for you in your memory grid complex. Now, I know this for a solid fact, because this is also how the psionic abilities work. So they've explained the way that it's able to be done by the art attorneys don't really do this sort of stuff, but they explained to me that this is how it can be done with other beings. Now, normally once the psionic abilities are in play, a lot of them, not all of them, have realized that karma is a real thing, and so they try and do of the best and highest intent for the being, right? So they try not to really mess with them. But when they can go psionically and you think it's your voice in your head, but it's another being, this is the same way the attachments work, although they're a negative polarity. So when they're pushing ideas and thoughts in your head, so say, oh, today's the best day ever, and they are continuously telling you, but you think it's your voice in your head, then all of a sudden you only have to hear it so many times before it starts to be the best day ever every single day. That's how this works in a positive light. Now, that voice inside your head, if you start talking back into it and you start telling it, not today, universe, that's my famous one. Whenever it's negative, not today, universe, right? I nip it right in the bud, or I try to as hard as I can. And so, but the more focus you start to place on your thoughts, if it's positive, I'm going to keep it. If it's negative, you're out of here. But then you know what? You still have to dive into your own shadow work. So you have to become really comfortable with yourself, with your past, with your mistakes. And wasn't that today's affirmations, Carm? Today I will forgive. Today I will forgive any past mistakes I have made and love myself unconditionally. See, and now that is coming up again in this session with the star people, right? And so we still have to dive into our shadow side. What have you guys done that you're not proud of? What have you done that's not in your highest and best? I was with the soda, with the caffeine, with the this, with the that, right? All this stuff, pain medicine. So all of these different things, you have to go one at a time and forgive yourself. You have to become your number one cheerleader of yourself, because no one else is going to cheer harder for yourself except yourself. No other person will. And so there's just something that comes along with that whole process. Not only that, but when you're about to make moves, you shouldn't tell any person, nobody. Allow the move to be made, and then you tell people what you've done. You should never tell them before the fact. There's a lot of times when someone is trying to bend a spoon, this is the easiest way to put it. When someone's trying to bend the spoon, if there's a non-believer in the room, or someone who's jealous or envious or any of the lower frequency range, and they are watching you and you know you could do it, you might have done it 100 times. The second that that energy or that toxicity is in the room, you may not be aware of the thoughts inside their mind, but that's what's rattling around up inside their head. And so it's going to make it harder for you to bend the spoon because you have that person next to you. So when you're going to make moves and you're going to try and do stuff and manifest goodness for yourself, sometimes isolation is the best way to do it. So many of the ascended masters, we get called into isolation. And yes, it's kicking and screaming until we are happy and comfortable being alone. That's okay too. I've gone through it. I've been alone. It's been me and my kids alone in another state, away from everybody I know. Right. And so we've been here since 2019. Here it is, 2023. So it's been years. Now, we did go back and forth to New York for many years. We stayed there for a bit too, but we always came back and forth. So right now it's been almost a year solid in Pennsylvania alone. Now I'm perfectly happy and content being alone. And so that's usually when we start to manifest the soul tribe in, right? Is when we're perfectly happy and content just going and climbing a mountain with the kids. That's it. So when we start to be okay, once again, that's the triangle, right? So I've always had a mob of people around. I've always been a ringleader. That's just always been me. And then I've always been in solitude. It's been that whole cycle. So around people, not around people. Around people, not around people. It just is. And so that's fine. But I know when I was never at peace being alone. I was always rattled by it. Like I could never be alone. I always had to have people around me. Now I'm on my own. And so now when you get to a certain point, we're just like, it's fine. I'm going to get up, go to the gym. I'm going to climb a mountain. I'm going to do such amazing things, go sit by a creek. I'm going to write some cool downloads down, right? All this. And then the second that you're happy is the second that that whole cycle, it ends. You no longer need to experience it. And then all of a sudden your soul tribe and soul family will come in for you. So, but in the meanwhile, we should all continue to focus on ourselves. So when we start to focus on ourselves, and even me, it's even with all the extensive shadow work and all the stuff that I've gone through with the star people and clearing the attachments and all this nonsense, it's not nonsense, it's healing. He's correcting me. Even going through all of that, you still have to focus on it more and more because the solar energies that are coming in the past 2 weeks hit a bunch of us, knocked us on our tails. Like I know. So when we start going through the solar energies, the solar energy is like, oh, well, you have done a lot. It just doesn't care. It's like, boom, this is the energy that you have in your grid. This is what needs to be erased. Now, when we start opening up that heart chakra, right? The higher self will come in and it's like, oh, the second the higher self, you start calling the higher self in, the higher self starts removing people left and right. And so if people are not meant or designed to be on your mission, it's like, you're out of here, you can't keep up, you're out of here. The higher self does it automatically. You don't have to lift a finger, you don't have to say a word, they will just disappear. That's okay too, because you have to always trust in the universe. So when we have full trust in the higher self, it's like, okay, thank you, because I might not have seen the full timeline and what that person was going to do. So you have to just be okay with people leaving your life. It is perfectly fine, right? Sometimes it's not easy, but we get a hamster, right? And we make it work. I have a fish, and so it's just ironic. The fish, it's like it's a beta fish, and for some reason, I swear to God, it must be like really it was my daughter's fish, and we left it at the grandparents' house, and for some reason I wasn't there for a couple months, and now the fish got really ill. I guess it got depressed from not seeing us, right? And so it kind of hunched over, and now when I look at the fish, now it's going through a complete healing. So now it's straight up and it's swimming around a little bit. But when I look at the fish, it reminds me of when I was like that. And so a lot of times our familiars, that's our animals that reincarnate to have experiences with us. So our familiars, I had a beta fish when I was in high school. It lasted over 10 years in the tiniest little fish bowl. It was so tiny, but I used to put my eyes against that glass bowl and I would talk to the fish. And the second I would walk in the door, the fish couldn't see me from the door, but the fish would start swimming around like crazy because it knew I was home. So we don't really understand the way souls reincarnate. So that fish I had 20 years ago could have reincarnated into this fish because he took on a form of my back injury. I can see his spine is shifted. And so, but now he's starting to straighten back up. That's where I was years ago. After my son was born, I was a complete cripple. Like I was totally bent over, hunched like a C. It was horrible. Yeah, it was just horrible. So, but now I see the fish going through it. And so now that law of polarity kicks in, and it's like I went through the experience. Now I'm witnessing some other life form go through the experience. And so what that fish is doing karmically, it's showing me that neutrality, that third party perspective. So I can go through and I could be at peace with the experience. The fish is healing fine too. And he's been with us for a couple of weeks now, and he looks like a complete different fish. Half of his coloring came back. He looks much happier. He's always looking for me. I put my eye over there, right? So it's amazing the things. Your body is designed to heal. So if we just are happy and we are just changing the environment is really key, because I went through a lot of different things and I could not heal myself. I had crystals in my pocket. I had all this stuff, grounding to the earth every day. It didn't matter. If you are around toxicity, the toxicity can be people, places, or things. Sometimes you may get a dark object. Now, dark objects have been a topic. And so we can take this pen for an example. We're not going to take my pen for an example. Take any item. It could be any item in the world, any item. And so, but you can cast negative thoughts into that item to such a degree that they've done this with certain knives. And so when a random person would pick up the knife, they would have the thought because they picked up the knife, and that knife would be telling them to do something horrible with it. So we're able to cast thoughts and emotions into physical items. Thoughts and emotions, it's all the same exact thing as light. And so your emotion is magnetic, your thought grid is electric. But when you cast with both of them, you throw your heart and your emotions into casting these thoughts into an item, then that item starts to resonate with the frequency of that thought. And so that's just it. Now we do this naturally with crystals, right? So where you can use it for darkness, you can use it for light. So the more and more time that you're able to sit here and spend with your crystal, you can program the crystal to do anything you want. And so many times we utilize crystals like this, because crystals like this has different sides to it. So this one has 6 different sides. You can program 6 programs into the crystal. Now the crystal will accept a program at a split second. Thank you for recording all information during any and all past, present, and future audio recording sessions. Thank you, Crystal. That's it. That's as simple as it takes to program a crystal. The crystal, if we took it under certain types of technology and we hooked up the aura of the crystal, we could see it accepting the program into the crystal. That's it. It's programmed. Now, when we want to clear it, I'm not going to clear this one because it has all the stored memory in it, but we would take whatever crystal we're clearing and we would say, thank you for clearing all the programs. Boop! It clears all the programs instantly. Very simple. So when we take that process, now all of a sudden, it doesn't have to be a crystal. It could be any item, right? And so we see a lucky rabbit's foot. Now, because it's a universal consciousness, everybody knows about a lucky rabbit's foot. So that makes it work even stronger because the power of 3 kicks in. When 3 or more people believe something, it makes that reality more solid for everybody. This is how the dream walker ability and utilizing 3 dream walkers to shift the potential of the entire planetary system works. These things are real and we're opening up to them and we're seeing them. Now, we also have people who are in the astral realms constantly. Hey, Melina, welcome, welcome. So we have those people who are doing, and even if they utilize psychedelics, that's fine too, because they're still accessing other densities, other realms, other beings are there. Your spirit guides are there. There's different extraterrestrial beings out of there. So many times, different extraterrestrials, they'll be in your room. You might not even see them. That's okay too. So, but we can also invoke them. And so we can call them, we can thank them. And now this was a big thing years and years ago. I did this, but just be aware that the star people have always been working with me. I was just very unaware, but I've always been highly intuitive on everything. I just never paid attention to it. My friends all knew, though, of course. So, but years ago, I had actually asked the stars, and I said, if anyone's up there, please help us save the planet. And so I didn't get a response right away. It was several years after I had a very emotional night. I was hysterical. I thought we were going to blow up the entire planet and we were all going down. I was learning the conspiracy, right? And so I went through one of those moments and I was like, oh, dear God, right? And then that was the night that they showed up in my backyard with the UFO. And they were there for a long time. So that was my husband. So the Starman is my husband. He's wonderful. And he's Arcturian. So but yeah, that happened. And then when I was a kid, I was also on a motorcycle. And so, you know, I was with a pack of biker boys. What are you going to do? And so they sent me, I had the bad intuition all night. Like I knew something was going to happen, but I was like, nah, I'll be fine, trying to push it off. And so finally they sent me a vision that you knew it was a vision because my whole world had changed. And so I physically saw myself flipping the bike, going really fast. And then I was back in my helmet like a while back and I knew it. It was like, oh God, this is it. It's over. Right. Like I had said that as I'm flipping the bike. And so, but then I was back on my bike and they told me like they were in the helmet with me and they're like, you're not listening to us. And so at that moment, I was like, I got to go home. Right. Not even 5 minutes after I had left, my biker boys got into a cat and mouse chase with the cops. I was a very inexperienced rider. They used to call me the tail because I was a slow one, right? So yeah, it wouldn't end well. So I know for a fact the star people are real. I've had multiple interactions with them. So these are real beings who are in a physical form. Even though they do access 5D frequencies, there is a level of physicality to them. So you've got to be careful who you're calling on is right. So that's it. Like I've never really called upon gods or any of those people, but they have made contact and communication with me. Like I've never gone looking for them. There are supposedly trickster gods out there or trickster entities, whatever you guys want to call them. So yes, you do have to be careful. Now, we all have guides and the star people are watching each and every one of you guys. That's why if you call upon the star people, my people are going to show up because they know who everyone here is. I do manifestations before clicking on the live so that there's protections for each and every one of you guys who are watching, whether it's you're watching live or you're watching in the future. And so I know, and I know for a fact the star people take it seriously because they wouldn't allow me to speak. You guys have all heard them pull words out of my mouth before. So they wouldn't allow me to tell you guys that you're safe calling upon the star people if you're not. That's it. They would stop me. I know for a fact. So I know you guys will be safe. Yeah. Let me see. Okay. So let's see. We'll do one more question for tonight. Let's see. Okay. Oh, okay. We know we have a bunch of questions. So, twin flames, we kind of touched on that already because there's energetic bonding that takes place. Now, twin flames, just imagine for 1 second that your higher self fractaled into a man and a woman or whatever. Just we're not even going to touch that. It fractaled into two beings. Those two beings, now you just recognize the twin flame. So, because you guys both share the higher self is going to want to make it rapid for you guys to evolve together. And so many times, these two people who share the same higher self, the similarities in them are exponential. And so they're very, very similar. And it allows them to go through a very rapid evolution because it's the same higher self. And your higher self is like, well, let's see how quick they can get the job done. Right. So you may go through all these different cycles together. Now, in any relationship, the second you're energetically bonded, you automatically go through cycles together. I go through cycles with my starman. We go through different stages, different things happen, and it's just like real life. So it's just like real life, like just like real life. Like we have moments, we have things that come up, and it's just like real life. There's no other way to explain that. Like, and I never would have thought that this kind of relationship would have been possible, but it's just like having a best friend on the phone, and then all of a sudden she's going through stuff. Like, that's what we go through. We go through stuff. It's just like real life. So it's amazing. But where did I go? I totally got sidetracked. Let me take a sip. Hmm. Okay. Where was I? Oh, twin flames. So when you go through things like that with a twin flame, it's very rapid ascension process. So a lot of people have come to notice this. And then all of a sudden it's kind of like they don't really want to be with the twin flame because it's painful to go through all of this stuff. However, if your higher self is putting you through all these different cycles, it's because it needs to be healed. So it comes up. A lot of times we don't have control. A lot of times, even if you're doing the shadow work and all this stuff, I've seen accidents, right? And so just recently I saw two of them. They were very, very minor. Nobody got hurt, thank God. Actually, just today I was seeing road work. So there is a degree in which there's a lot of things that to our normal human eye would look like sheer chaos. It's not. It's all divinely guided. There's things happening behind the curtain that we don't see. We don't have access to that knowledge. So, because we don't have access to that knowledge, we just see it as chaos, or we see it as it is what it is, or we're just in the now moment and everything is the way it's divinely meant to be. And so, but when we say that it's divinely meant to be, we're putting that faith in the higher self because that's what that means. The higher self knows what we need to see. Anytime I personally start seeing things on repeat, so if I'm seeing, let's say if I'm seeing an insect 2 or 3 times. So actually I've been seeing a lot of deceased animals on the road. Again, we just went through the raccoon post. It's like I've seen every single animal that could be there. So absolutely amazing. Now, waking up at 3 a.m. was another thing. So a lot of us, we go through this stage where every morning, for me, it was 3:33. I would constantly be up in the morning around that time, give or take. Every day was different though. So when you wake up at that time, the veil between the astral realms and the physical realm is the thinnest. And so that's also the time that the star people utilize for doing DNA activations and light linguistics on us. So when we start to know this, it's like, okay, for a while, I was up at 3:30 in the morning, 4:30, 5:30, couldn't sleep. I toss and turning. I'm like, this is ridiculous. It went on for so long. But it's all part of the evolutionary process. So a lot of times your spirit guides, your star family, different beings, entities, people are trying to contact us. We're just unaware, but they're also doing energetics on us during that time. So they just ask us to be patient with them because it goes on and then one day it stops, thank God. So for me, I felt like it took forever though. It was over a year. And it got to such a point where I was like, I need to sleep. Like this, it was crummy. It was really crummy, but it was for my highest and best. Right now, what we're supposed to do, you're supposed to dive into a modality. So whether it be meditation, whether it be, this is the star people stepping forward. I forgot all of this stuff. So they're saying you're supposed to dive into either meditation or you're supposed to do yoga or breath work or anything that's going to shift your consciousness and allow your guides to come forward. The reason why it lasts for so long is because they're giving you an extra opportunity to make contact in the astral realms. When you make contact in the astral realms, there is always a potential for you to become an astral traveler because each and every one of you guys are being given that opportunity. That's the moment where you can activate a hardcore astral travel ability, or you can stick to the physical reality and the regular evolutionary process. So many times, people, you can manifest astral abilities, but you can also manifest abilities in the physical. So it depends on what it is that you wish to do. You can work on the inside or you can work on the outside. You guys choose what you want. The gifts are the same because you can go in the inside realm and you can activate the gifts like that too. Or you can go in the physical realm and there's a little bit of a time space delay. So it's going to take you a little bit longer to access the gifts and you have to place more focus on it. You have to believe, but it has to be a knowing. It can't we can have beliefs that are wrong. We can believe things that are wrong. Many people believe things that are wrong, but when you know something, it becomes solid. So you have to know it. That's the key factor here. You have to know it in your heart. And when you know it, then it becomes manifest for you. So the astral realm is basically another realm in which you're able to work out. They're itching my wrist. Does anybody have any wrist issues that's watching? Because like I get signs and indications like body itches. It's my right wrist. I have to Google the metaphysical reason behind that. Okay. So that's how that works with the 3 a.m. So that's kind of like a door being opened for each. I didn't do it. Right? So I did an astral projection a couple of times in my life. The very last time I astral projected into the center of the earth and I saw fire people, right? And it rattled me to the core. I was like, oh my God. I got down there and I told myself, oh, they can't see me. I'll be fine. And one being turned around and trying to grab me. And so in that moment, I panicked and I flew back into my body instantly. It happened automatically, thank God. And so after that, I try and do it, but it's I think the fear, right? I have to release that fear because it was kind of rattling for me. I was looking for government bases. Shouldn't just stay out of the earth. But there's other people. There's actually a guy named Ryan Cropper, and he's on YouTube. So I've been listening to him for a very long time, but I stopped. And so he popped back up again. And the stuff coming out of his mouth is absolutely amazing because he goes into the astral and he meets all sorts of beings and spirit guides. And I would like to have a session with him too, because he goes into the astral and he starts pulling your guides up and he starts getting information for you. So to me, that's really interesting because he's done it. Right. So I don't really speak on the astral because I've done a tiny bit. I know it's real. I've been there. I've done that, but I don't do it every single day. He does. I'm more of a physicality. Right. So you can kind of see the person that you guys choose to manifest to listen to. We have me who's in the physical world, but he's in the astral world. So to me, yeah, I'll dive back into him because the stuff he's coming out with now, it's like that makes a lot of sense. Right. So I would just totally check him out. And I don't normally mention people, especially these days. I really don't listen to anybody. I scroll TikTok a little bit, but that's it. I try and reread my posts because the amount of information that came pouring out of me, it comes pouring out of me. There's so much, right? So like I don't remember it all. So I go back and I read it and I'm like, damn, that's genius. That's what I keep saying for every post. So, okay, we have a couple more questions. We have to get through these. So, painful menstrual cycles. And what does it mean? This has been reported across the board. His name is Ryan Cropper. And so, if Heather, if you look up too, she posted his name. A Facebook user posted his name. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Why would you have to? I don't know. Why not? That's funny though. Where was I? Painful menstrual cycles. And what does that mean? For some reason, everyone has been going through painful menstrual cycles. Like all the people I see, and it's like, it was either late or something's going. It's more than two people at this point. So this is something that's been coming up pertaining to the last shift. So the last shift triggered the sacral chakra. Now, we take a look at our relationships. Orange is right before the solar plexus, which is the yellow chakra. And so, what happens is a lot of times, right before spring or right as spring, you have the yellow flowers are coming up, right? So, we can see yellow flowers all over the planet. So, that is a sign that more energy is here. Believe it or not, because what do you guys see when you look at a flower that's yellow, right? It's triggering the color yellow in your brainwave patterns. Now, because it's triggering the color yellow in your brainwave patterns, that's the same color as the sun. When we're out in the sun, we are getting energy from that color pattern. It's changing the way we think. It changes our biology. The colors you wear changes the way people look at you, right? So all of these are color sciences. These are real. These are physical. These are here. The scientists know this. So when we start seeing yellow flowers, that's Mother Earth telling us prepare for more energy. When we are in summertime, we are more active. We go outside more. We enjoy the sun. We're in nature more, right? We do more things outside in nature. Like this is just a natural part of being here. So when we start to see orange getting pulsed, menstrual cycles, right? Those cycles go with the moon. So we have our sun, our soul, Sunday, Solara, right? That is your sun. So we have the sun energy and we also have the moon energy. So these two energies work hand in hand. The moon pulses the energetics and it removes density. So, but it removes density by triggering us. This is why on full moons, there's more crime, more accidents, more all of that nonsense happens, right? But also our menstruation cycles are also being pulsed by the moon. And so, what is that cycle? It's a renewing. We are releasing the old and we're allowing for new to be birthed. And so these two cycles go hand in hand. So the last cycle, whatever zodiac shift was happening up there was affecting the moon energies that we are getting, a new moon or something. And then all of a sudden it started affecting the cycles. That's because the cycles are shifting a tiny, tiny bit. So now we start to notice these things, right? So we'll start to notice it on a civilization as well. So it's bringing in the spring is coming a little bit sooner than it would normally come, right? It's March. We're seeing flowers and grass and all this stuff is coming. March is supposed to be in like a lion, out like a lamb. We were supposed to have snow. It didn't snow. I only had a very, very light dusting once, and I live up a mountain. So you guys too. I mean, you guys can all get on the bandwagon and just drop into the heart, send it love and light, and change the weather. Right? Everything I did not want to shovel this year at all. And so, but we all can do this. This is how connected we are to the planet. The one time it snowed, my kids made a manifest to have snow. It snowed, and then by the time the afternoon came, bam, it was sunshine and it was gone. What did the star people say about menstruation on new moon or full moon? Let's see. It's just different energetics. And so a new moon, it brings new growth. A full moon, it really pulses the energetic to remove the density. So the new moon, just imagine there's multiple types of moons as well, is what they're saying. And they're saying that each and every moon during the 12-month cycle as you know it, it's actually 13, he's saying, but each and every one of the moons does something different. And so if you took it and you wrote down a journal, okay, January full moon, this is what happened to me. Next year in January, you're going to start to see the significance to that because you're going to start to see a pattern form. So I even tried to do this on the regular cycles, right? Because the second I learned about cycles, I was like, well, I want to see what cycles I'm running because you need to time and date it, right? And so but there has to be some sort of calendar app where you can put it in and go back a year and see. But it has to be like a journaling app. And so, but I didn't find one, but I looked years ago. So maybe they have one now. But definitely start writing down, even if you keep a notebook and you keep the date, right? So you can go back and look at the date and see, okay, well, what was everything that happened to me on this date? And then next year, look at the date again and see. Now, they're saying there might be a discrepancy because you guys are looking at the dates as if it's exact. Sometimes they're slightly off because the zodiac is shifting in different ways and different times and different dates. And so you may have it happen, let's say March 1st. Next year, it'll hit March 2nd. And then the following year, it may be on the 3rd. So it could shift potentially depending on the alignment of your planetary systems. Yeah, excellent. Okay. Do people who do do people who do horrible things get punished or karma? And so each and every one of us, we may have noticed a person who's just rotten to the core and they get away with everything and everyone likes them. That's okay too, right? I know people like that. And I do not wish harm upon anybody. I do not wish karma on anyone. Don't even do that to yourself because anything you cast, it comes back to you tenfold. Tenfold. It's not worth it. Anytime somebody throws negativity at you, take that negativity, send it back with love and light, and rainbows. Bam. That's it. I love and bless you. Right. And you always want to cast it back in positive, because that positivity is going to keep your frequency high. And so that's it. You never want to cast negativity. Sometimes we cast negativity and we don't even know it. So let's say, for an example, your shower head breaks. Now all of a sudden you're screaming and cursing at the shower. That is a very physical reality. We've all been there. I was there at one point in my evolution, right? When something broke, I would scream and curse at it. That never made it better, right? You have to, there's a whole process for healing things like that. And then not only that, but everything that breaks that's yours or in your environment, that's all a reflection of things that you need to heal inside yourself. So if you're having any type of water issues, that water is connected to your emotions. Your tears is water. You cry tears, it cleans your emotions from the inside of your body. We take baths. We baptize in salt water. It's supposed to be blessed in salt water. And that cleanses and purifies your emotion body. It's supposed to jump in the Dead Sea salt, like the lake. Beautiful for cleansing your energetics. Or the beaches has salt naturally, right? And so, but all of these things, when we start to take them into a spiritual mindset, then we actually understand what it is that we're meant to be doing. And so when we start going in, we start doing these different things, just see how it makes you feel. If you don't feel any better, change it, do something else. That's okay too. It is, and I'm telling you from personal experience, try everything. The star people had told me to try this, try this, try this. I went down a whole list. I had every single spiritual toolbox. That's what I was calling it. It's my spiritual toolbox. It was all thoughts and ideas of things I could do to heal myself when I was a cripple. And so none of that stuff worked. I had no choice. I had to shift environment, because no matter how much love and light you're projecting at yourself, if you are in toxicity, you're going to be toxic. Now, this is like the best way to put it. You have 2 cups of water. They're brand new. They're fresh. They're ice cold. And then all of a sudden you put red hot chili pepper in one of them. Which glass do you want to drink on that summer day when you're dying of thirst? Do you want to drink the hot and spicy one, or do you want to drink the regular water that's nice and cool and refreshing? Right? Having yourself in toxicity makes you that chili water. That's it. That's the best way to put it. Right? It's contaminating you with negative energy that is weighing you down. Sometimes all the spiritual tools in the world cannot save you. Sometimes you have to change your location and change the environment you're in. Now, we can even take that one step further. Look at the people who are in a city. Their fight or flight systems are so activated, they don't have any green space to step in, to ground into the earth, to connect, right? And so they're in this square, tiny little box living space. A lot of them develop anxiety. Just for an example, not saying anyone in the city is like that, just an example. Don't anyone get offended at it, because some people like living in a city, and that's okay too. But when your fight or flight systems become activated because of the hustle bustle. Now, I used to live on Long Island. We have rush hour there, 4:00. It used to be 4:00. Now it's like all day long. And so that it gets your anxiety, and you can feel, I personally can feel the energy. And so right away, I know the second I tip into New York, when we go for visits, it's like you sit up in the driver's seat, everything changes. And now your race mom comes on, right? And it's like you have to go faster, and you're in and out of the lanes. And it to me, I love driving it though. It's amazing. It reminds me of home. But doing it every single day, you find yourself screaming rainbows and unicorns at people, right? My kids and I are so funny. We go chamois shine yourself, right? And that's the car wash. So we go to the car wash, we chamois shine ourselves because we just got clean, right? So now we say that we're really trying super hard not to curse. My kids are 12 and 9. So we're trying not to curse at all. It's like another thing, right? So we're eliminating the caffeine. We're doing this, we're doing that. We're getting rid of all the toxicity stuff, eating salads. And now it's like, okay, your vocabulary needs to be upgraded too, right? And so I used to have a truck driver mouth at one point. That's okay too, because you learn from that, right? So you have one polarity of it, then you experience no cursing. And so how does both make you feel? You hold neutrality, send it love and light, bam, one of your energetic nodes just opens. Now you're one step closer to evolving. That's how it works, right? Our experiences are our own. Now, your energetic grids are fine tuned to you. Mine are fine tuned to me. My experiences are totally different than yours. Your experiences is what opens your energetic grids, your nodes. They're calling it a node. So, your experiences, go through them. Where can you see other people going through them? Can you send it love and light for the entire situation? Right? Can you not hold any neutral emotion? Can you hold the neutral emotions? The star people are correcting me. So you have to have a level of neutrality. It's okay, right? It's okay that I walk through these experiences. It's okay for you to walk through your experiences. I'm not going to judge you because I did it too. Even if I didn't do it, I'm still not going to judge you because I don't want it to cast back on me. I want to always be positive to all the people around me because that's what I choose to radiate. So that doesn't mean that we're not human. That doesn't mean that we're not going to scream and curse when something really horrible happens. It just means that I'm going to try. And then I'm going to keep trying. And I'm going to keep trying. And I'm eventually going to get it 100% where I don't even need to try. It's automatic. That's how this works. Right. And so for a while, I was furious about the coffee. I was furious. Right. And so I was like, oh, I can't believe we would pass Dunkin' Donuts. And I'm like, there it is. I could just drive through. Right. And then, but you do it so often. And now all of a sudden I look back and it's like, that's no big thing. I'm over it. Right. Sometimes when I was younger and judged or didn't understand someone's situation, I ended up experiencing it later in life. Yes. Yes. That's me too. And the star people have, I rephrase it. The star people have walked me through my memory grid complex so that they showed me where I judged people as a child and how it manifested into my own life. Yes. So that's it. We judge as children, and children are very judgy, right? And then all of a sudden, it humbles us when we have to walk through the experience where we were judgmental. That's how that goes. So, and it is a very, very humbling process because when you look at your life history and you're just like, oh, right, I went through all of that. And it's like, yes. And we expect you to love yourself and be thankful and grateful for who you are in the now moment and shine your light. Because just think about it right now. My past, it should have crushed me, literally. Being a cripple and all that nonsense and all that toxicity, it should have crushed the life out of me. And I'm still here today. And I'm shining my light, being happy, supporting my community, and being with you fine people and helping everyone to go through this process that I've already went through. Right. So if I can do it, you guys can do it. I've defeated multiple diseases. There's been multiple things wrong with me. Multiple. I have a list, right? If I could do it, you could do it. The first step, you have to smile. Now, just imagine for 1 second, our body's neurology is directly connected to our body language. Your body language is not only the micro expressions. How do you smile? Do you squint your eyes and you smile? Because squinting your eyes is like puffing up the upper cheeks here. That's how you know someone's really smiling. If someone smiles and their eyes don't move, it stays very dead. You watch for sociopaths, right? Because the upper energy in the eyes, your eyes is how the world sees you and how you see the world. So your right side is your side that the world sees. So if you are having one eye smaller, you want to have a look. Is it on the right or left? The left side is your family side, your personal side. The right side is what the world sees. So there's different micro expressions that we can dive into. Not only that, but also the wrinkles on your face. Each wrinkle on your face, the ones across the forehead, those are lessons learned. However, any other wrinkles, those are traumas. Those are from emotions. So when we want to change our emotional frequency, if you guys don't feel good, the first thing you need to do is smile. If you hold a different emotional frequency in the physical form for 1 minute, it starts to change your neurology. And then all of a sudden, now just imagine you take it one step further. That's only a smile. What happens if you put your arms up like Superman, right? Or you put your hands on your hips and you straighten up your back? Just hold that for 1 minute and see how it makes you feel. Because it's like a cascade of hormones. Once again, the hormones go into kick. They get kicked off, and then all of a sudden it makes you feel better. Now, when I was personally going through my healing, I have a bow staff. And so I would take the bow staff, I would swing it, and I would start to activate these creative centers in my mind where the end of my bow staff was sending light. And it was sending light and it was vortexing the energetic. And I have a big kitchen. It's a handicap kitchen, thank God. And so I could swing a bow staff in it. That's where I was doing this, right? And so I would imagine sending energy as I was swinging the bow staff, putting on some music, getting into a good emotional state. Now, all the while, I didn't feel good, right? But I kept doing it until one day I forgot and the pain was gone. That's how it happens, by the way. But and I've had a backlash of people telling me, "How are you going to tell me I'm going to forget about the pain?" That's what happened to me. So I could just tell you guys what happened to me. I woke up one morning, I felt wonderful. So I was doing the same stuff I was doing the day before. The day before I was still in pain. One day I forgot I was ever in pain. And then a couple days after that, I realized, "Oh my god, my pain is gone." But I just went. It was like 3 or 4 days, and I can remember them, and I had 0 pain, and I didn't think about it because you just forget about it. So what technically happened is a timeline shift in which you're holding a higher frequency, so it shifted you into a higher frequency in which your memory grid complex is completely different. So a lot of times there's a bleed through when we make a change. This is what a deja vu is. That bleed through is kind of like remembering 2 separate timelines. So you remember, and each one of the deja vus can be different. And so you could remember an entire lifetime in this frequency, and then you could remember a tiny bit of time in that frequency, in the lower frequency range. That's okay. Each deja vu for each person is completely different. So what were I focusing on? Oh, love, light, right? I was just trying to focus on not settling back into bed because my leg was hurting. I had sciatica. It was down both legs. Both legs were numb. Then both arms also had sciatica. Half my head went numb. It was just crazy, crazy. I could write a book on just all the pain. So, but that would be focusing on the negative. So I try and focus on the positive. Now, when you're focused on love and light, you're swinging around a bow staff, so you're sweating a little bit because you get into it, right? You're going with the beat of the music. And then the star people had me do this. So I know that these are mudras. I don't know what this means. They said, put my thumbs on my heart. So anytime I don't feel good, right, or I'm having an emotional time, this is what I normally do. I do back 2 fingers down. And then to me, it looks like a heart when you do it. And they said, put the thumbs on the heart. So I see my heart, I see the heart in my hands. And then whatever electrical systems it's connecting, that's the one that helps you heal. So that's the one I tell everyone to do because that's what they had me do. They also had me do, because the sciatica was on the right hand side, they had me throw my hands all the way back like this, sit straight up. My wall's here, so I can't really do it, but all the way to the sides, right? And then they had me look straight up, and they had me lift my right leg all the way up as far as I could, and like all the way like that. So you're stretching backwards. And so they said that that gets the energy flowing in my spine. So anyone with spinal cord injury, right? That's what you want to do. It kind of looks like if you've ever seen someone running across the finish line, they kick their arms back like that and they're looking up and they're probably thinking, "Good Lord," right? Because they just ran a mile. That's what that feels like, right? Hi, Scott. Welcome, welcome. So, okay, what was the last one? Oh, that was it. I think we got through everything. Does anybody have any more questions? Do the star people have anything to say if you're dealing with addiction to alcohol? Yes. Um, Once again, I've gone through addictions too, because that's all part of the lower frequency range. And not only that, but and I tried to explain this to people. I wrote a post about it too, because this is what the star people say. People who experience addictions, a lot of times star seeds, we have a higher probability of falling into addictions. That's a known fact. Now, because a star seed may be drawn into the whole ADD thing, it's natural because that's how 5D works. So your thinking is outside the box. The problem is that when you drop into the 3D reality, if you get sucked into a lower frequency, that ADD starts kicking off to such a degree in which it can mess up your entire life. The second that the same person who's had this ADD their entire life starts focusing on healing that, becoming happy, they start to see it as a superpower. So ADD is kind of like overriding time and space. That's what it is, because it's messing, it's not messing. It's a gift of the perception, and it came from the stars. It's a blessing. The second that we figure out how to properly use it. Now, whenever a star seed starts dealing in alcohol, a lot of times we are shown alcohol. So many times, many star seeds, not all of them, but they dive into something and they do it to the extreme. That also has correlations with ADD. So all of these things are all connected, is what the star people say about them. So when we deal with alcohol, they will allow us to have the experience. Even me, I'm not excluded from this. I had to step forward. I even had to quit smoking before they actually made solid contact with me. And so I had to go. I was also on kratom because I went from pain meds to kratom, and then I felt like I couldn't do it without the kratom. The kratom is very addictive as well. So you get used to having that cup of kratom in the morning, and it numbs your pain. And so I had to give that up too. So cigarettes and that, all of these things, bam, give them all up. Now, I had to make the choice to give them up. And they kept telling me as an intuition. It wasn't the way that I have contact and communication with them now. Now I talk to them like they're in the room with me. But back then, it was like, you should really give that up because you have a great path ahead of you if you give that up. And that was the thought that kept running in my head. At the time, I thought it was me. So, but it was the star people. They also used to speak to me through dreams. And so they showed me negative side effects or consequences of what would happen if I didn't stop. And some of those things were downright scary. So I was like, oh, I'm done with this. Right. So some things I did have to be scared into quitting, but that's okay too. They knew my potential because they're the ones who sent me here to do this type of work. So but they will always allow us to run the course of alcohol. Now, during that process of running that course of with alcohol or any chemical substance addiction, it's fine. When we start to ask for help, you have to realize each and every one of us, we have our star family. They are watching us. They know us. They know who we are. We came here with their backup and their support. They're like our support team. They can make changes to the simulation and we're just not consciously aware of them. So when we start to ask them for help and support, they will make it very easy for us to change out of that patterning. So, but we still have to be the ones to take the first step. Yeah. So you have moments of sobriety and you sink back into it. So you have to realize what you're doing is a cycle, right? And that's normal. It's because everybody normally goes through this process of they want to quit, they're going to try and quit, and then all of a sudden they fall back into it. It's okay. It's perfectly okay. I've been through it too. And not only that, I mean, there has been so much television programming that has been cast upon all of us that it was okay to take a Xanax at once, right? All of this stuff was in all of the TV from my generation. They were telling us to take all this stuff. They were pushing it on us, right? When I was in pain management, they didn't give me one script. They gave me like five, right? And so it was, that's what it was back then. It is not what it is today. Today is totally different because now we're aware that it's damaging and destructive to people's lives. Back then, it was a pharmaceutical company that just wanted to make money off of us and they didn't care. Right. So when we start to realize these things, we wisen up really quick. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. I'm going to choose all natural because now I don't trust you guys. Right. And they know what they did because now they have a TV show about the addiction. I have not watched it because I do not want to dive into that topic. I lived it. I don't need to see it again. But that's the pharmaceutical companies disclosing what they did to people. There's another TV show called Snowfall, where the United States government is admitting in that TV show that the CIA provided cocaine to America in masses, right? Like they gave it to everybody dirt cheap. They got everybody hooked on it. So, and then they came out with the do not do drugs. And they came out with the do not do drugs, the dare. That was my generation, the dare people, right? And so you tell them, oh, drugs are so bad, so we're going to lock you up. And so, but what is this whole cycle? They're making money off the drugs. They're making money off of throwing people in jail, right? And so, but that whole the jail system is for profit. People own the jail system. So every person that gets sent to jail, even if you're innocent, you get sent to jail, let's say for a week, they're making money off of you. So it's kind of like the birth certificates. And so the birth certificates, each and every one of us is bought and sold and traded on an open stock market with our birth certificate. So if that's not a cattle certificate, then I don't know what is. But I'm just saying. Now, there are ways around that whole system because a lot of people have been diving into sovereign, becoming sovereign. When you become sovereign, that birth certificate, bam, now they can't touch you. You cannot be placed in jail. You are above the law because the original laws of the United States is do no harm to other people, and there was no such thing as all these rules and regulations, right? Taking a photo of my car license plate, like that's not a real law. You guys just put that there to pull more taxes out of us. So if we go back to the original, and why isn't the Declaration of Independence being taught in the school, right? You guys aren't teaching the people about how independent we truly are. The United States has been replaced by the United States to the United States of America. It's a corporation. So it's totally different. You guys got to dive into that topic if you're more interested. Read the books because then you learn a lot about what's actually happening here in the country. Now, we don't have to pick up pitchforks and start fighting. We just have to go and amend the birth certificate and do all this stuff so that we become free. There's even some people who are taking it a level deeper because each one of the birth certificates, they're prepaying our electrical bill, our water bill from the time of birth. These are United States citizen things that automatically get paid. So when we get birthed through a birth canal, right, then all of a sudden, all of these things are prepaid for our entire life. This is the reason why they don't send you a bill. They send you a statement. Check your electrical bill. It's a statement. We're not responsible for paying statements. If you look at Black Laws Dictionary and we start researching what is a statement, what is a bill, right? We start doing research into the whole, country constitution, all the stuff. Yeah. You know what? I wouldn't even trust another school system, to be honest with you. I think that it needs to be brought down to a local position, right? So if I know you guys and I know all the stay at home moms, we're the ones in charge. And so we are going to see what our kids are going to be taught. I want to see, what are my kids learning? Is it in alignment with what I'm doing? Definitely not, right? Definitely not. So, and you're gonna have my kids sit there and then they gotta raise their hand to use the bathroom, like, and it's very much don't speak until you're spoken to. I understand that there has to be a form of coherence in a classroom so that everyone has a turn to talk and all that stuff. But to some degree, it's kind of like you're commanding my kid and you're telling them when to sit and when to stand and how to act and how to behave. And if you don't do anything that they tell you, right, you go down to the principals. I hated school. I hated school when I was a kid. I hated it. My favorite part was cutting class and going to play hacky sack, right? But I would show up. I would get excellent grades on the test. All my teachers were like, "You're a genius," and I was like, "Yeah, but I just don't have it in me to sit in this room because it's boring." Now, then I went to culinary school, and there I found it was extremely fun because then we got to work with our hands and it was fun. It was interesting. And my teacher was amazing. He threw a frying pan at me once. It was great. Right. And so, but we made experiences that way. And we did it as a team and we worked together. And I had no problem absorbing all of the information because I trusted him and I knew that he knew what he was talking about. Now, that was a culinary instructor who had years and years of culinary practice. He was a master in his field, in my eyes, anyway. So I would want to learn from the master in their field. Don't bring some person who's reading out of a textbook who doesn't know. We're supposed to learn from the top of the top of that field. So the bakers, show me a baker. I'll sit with him. I'll learn from him. Yes, because he knows his stuff. Show me a scientist who's in the laboratory every single day. Let my kid go and learn from him because he's actually doing it. Don't you sit there and sell me a textbook and try and force feed your propaganda down my kid's throat. And then we have to worry about school shootings and all that stuff. Like, not happening. I'll homeschool my kid. And I recommend everyone homeschool if you can, right? It's not easy because there's two sides to every fence. When you're homeschooling, you're here. You're with your kids 24/7. You don't get that mom break. I'm a single mom. So my kids are forever with me, right? So there's two sides to every coin. You don't have that nice break during the day to focus on being yourself. But it's okay because there's perks. So like we play chess. My kid is so good at chess. We play every hour. We're like getting a good chess game in. I never thought I would be learning chess, right? And so, but there's also bad parts about it. So the social part, right? So my kids don't really hang, there's no other kids. They don't know anybody. They just know each other. So that's like a downside, right? So, and then and where are we going to go? So there's good things and there's bad things. Now, while we have this time and my kids are little, right? I know how to make a website. So that's something that we start learning, how to make websites, how to make money, how to do your taxes, right? So what I'm learning, I'm teaching them. So they learn as I learn how to do all this stuff, right? That's the way it's supposed to be. Back in the day, your kids stayed home. They helped you on the farm. Everybody learned how to do things together, right? And then the kids came up with better ideas. Now we have technology, we have AI. So the AI is bringing a whole new level of genius that if we want to know any single topic, just type it into the AI. Bam, you're going to get all this information. So the schools are becoming outdated. Who the hell is going to spend $100,000 on information that I can get from an AI for free? Right? I'm sorry, you guys. And not only that, but people like they snuck into Harvard and they sat through all the classes for free. And then they made money by taking the test for other people. Like these people are on TikTok. It's so funny. Right. So, I mean, the world is changing. The world is, I won't let my kids go to school if they have to pay 100 grand, 50 grand when they're out. And then what? They start their lives in debt. That's what that cycle is, right? You're going to start off fresh out of high school, fresh out of college. You're going to have a piece of paper hanging up on your wall, and then you have all this money you got to pay back to. It's just that's I started out in $50,000 in debt and I knew how hard it was for me, right? I worked 3 jobs and then I had to pay for my car insurance to sell all that stuff back then. So I knew I worked straight for 10 years, 3 jobs. I missed every birthday, I missed every holiday, I missed all that stuff. So for me to see what I went through and then not even liking school, like I was only there 3 months. It really wasn't for me. So I will not let my kids go through that. They can get the same exact education or better online for free. And the piece of paper, if that piece of paper did help you get a good job, I would probably be swinging on the fence a little differently. But we're also seeing all these kids pay all this money for college educations, and they're still working the same crummy jobs as the people who don't have the degree. So to me, it's just a no brainer, right? I would rather teach them business education from home. So, yeah. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Melina. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I do attachment removals. So this was something I never in a million years would have ever imagined that I would be doing. But the Star people took me on a whole 4-day process of how to clean attachments off of myself. So once again, we had to learn on myself. Now I teach classes. I hold classes. There should be a class coming up in April again on attachments. So what attachments are is they're lower vibrational entities or beings that latch onto us and they push thoughts or emotions in our physical form, but there's also many different types of ones. So if you guys were in my chat group on the WhatsApp, I actually sent you a new download of different attachments. So that was only for my messaging people. So if you guys want to join the WhatsApp, I may post it back up there. So I'm not posting the information online. It's only for the messages. So different types of attachments. We can have perception attachments that change the way you see yourself. So if you may look at yourself, you may think you're overweight. That could potentially be an attachment. Many people who suffer with anorexia and they think that they're fat, that's an attachment. We throw the attachment off, and now all of a sudden it allows you to heal, and then you start to see yourself for what you truly are. Now, that's only one thing. Some of the attachments, they can trigger you to lose your keys, lose your wallet, and then all of a sudden 2 hours goes by, you're still looking, and your stuff is right on the table where you've looked 10 times or more. That's an attachment that does that. I've experienced it, so I know. Now, there's death attachments, right? We kick them off anyway, just in case. Anyone who's had a near death experience, you have a death attachment. We need to go through and clear those off because those little guys, they sit on the energetic grids and they wait. And then all of a sudden they strike when you're not prepared for it. So there's different types of death attachments. There's, tragedy or trauma, like a car accident. That's one type. There's a long kiss goodnight is an attachment that I had. It causes a very slow death. So you got to kick them off. At death's door, that's another death attachment, right? That's when you're standing toe to toe with death, right? Or death is right outside the door. That's another one. So there's a whole range of them. Now, I sat here for a couple of days solid downloading by the Star people. They showed me every single emotion code for each attachment that I went over. And so I had to actually feel into the emotion of how does that attachment make people feel. And then I would write out the name. And so I have page after page. And there's more than 10 pages at this point because now I've had new ones come through. So there's dream attachments. We always say, everyone always says, oh, it's a succubus. No, it's a dream attachment. And a lot of them, they sit on your chest. They're really heavy. They make it so you can't move. But there's other types that show up in the dream. They may even look like animals and they try and attack you. So I had one of those, and this was years ago. I had a dream that I could make snow. And in the dream, I made it snow. And then my cat, it was a black cat at the time, it bit off my thumb. And I went running down the hallway like, oh my God, screaming blood. It was only a dream. And then halfway down the hallway, I was like, this is only a dream. And I woke up. So, but that black cat in the dream, it was an attachment that didn't want me to wake up to my ability to manipulate the weather. Now, the funny thing was, and my mother is my witness, right? It was in November in New York, Long Island, when this dream occurred. And when I woke up, it was snowing. My mom was like, it's snowing for some random reason. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, it wasn't supposed to snow. Right? That was a dream I was just having. So to me, it was like, oh, I knew I had something to do with that because I just had a dream that it was snowing. So it's amazing. The world that we live in is so amazing. So when we start to kick off any and all of the attachments, bam, that's it. The attachments get kicked off and then you feel clean energetically. Now, what that feels like, it feels like you have a ton of energy or you just feel very clean. It's just a clean, energetic feeling. It's very hard to explain, but you just feel like you could run a mile. That's how I felt after 4 days. Now, usually my attachment sessions, I have them listed for an hour. However, I allow the Star people to guide the closing. So I don't, because we trigger your emotions during these things. And so I don't like to trigger people's emotions unless I know we're getting a good chunk of it out and gone. It took me 4 days. So one attachment session is like the beginning. It's going to knock a bunch of the stuff off of you, but then you guys have to go through and keep doing it. You don't feel dirty. Oh, you do feel dirty energetically. Yeah. So, and I didn't even know what feeling dirty energetically was until I did my attachment with the Star people. And then I was like, oh, wow, I've not felt like this since I was a kid. That's how it felt. So imagine being a child. You have all this energy. Imagine if you could tap into all that energy as an adult. That's what it does when we start to knock the attachments off. Now, people have also had like spontaneous healings. There's been multiple experiences with this. So people have had aliens show, extraterrestrials. The Star people are correcting me. They don't like the word alien. It's not good for them. So it's not good for anybody. But they've had extraterrestrials showing up in their room. They've had their spirit guides come to them in their dream time. So we've had a whole bunch of different experiences always manifest. At this point, I already know that if it's one of you guys coming to me for a session, I know you're going to have something happen because it always happens, right? You feel better or something changes or shifts or, right? Usually these are all divinely timed too. So I don't even try and push sessions on people. I just let the Star people handle it because they usually start working on you guys a couple days beforehand. You'll get the thought, right? Oh, let me have a session. Let me have a session. That's the Star people guiding you to do it. So just pay attention to your thoughts. If you feel that way, send me a message. Okay. My sessions, you can get it on daniellelipton.com. You got to go. I love you, Nancy. Thank you for coming. I'm going to end now anyway. So we're at the 2-hour mark. This is a good night. So yes, daniellelipton.com. Stay tuned because coming up, we are going to be having an attachment class, maybe in about 2 weeks. It's sometime in April. I believe the second Saturday of the month, we're going to do an attachment class as well as the inner Zoom. So anyone who wants to get one-on-one, ask questions, that's the inner Zoom. So all that stuff will be posted on Facebook. Yes, all my videos are actually on YouTube as well. So Facebook is a little tricky. So if you go to YouTube and you go under the live videos, all of the videos are there. So there's got to be thousands of hours of content that you guys can dive into, and then just send me questions that you want to hear. You can go to daniellipton.com. There's a little message box. Send me in your questions. I write them on the list. It's just easier for me to read them on the list, and then I will answer all of your questions. Thank you, Melina, for coming. Thank you guys super, super much, and many, many love and blessings. You have a wonderful evening. Oh, I forgot. I also I put a post up. So we're going to do buy one, get one sessions from now until April, but I may extend it. We'll see how it goes. So buy one, get one free session. So if you go to daniellipton.com and purchase a session, I'm going to send you guys 2 links for 2 sessions. So people wanted me to do this because it's spring. And so spring, when we really want to bring in new energy, a lot of times we do a lot of healings in the session. So we got 2 of them. So it automatically gets sent through email. So no worries about it. Okay. And you guys have a wonderful evening and many, many love and blessings. Thank you for finding me, Liz.